For 75 years, men and women have been proudly serving our country at the Pueblo Chemical Depot in Pueblo, Colorado. Throughout that time, the mission to protect the nation has grown, and the dedicated and committed work of depot employees has helped keep our country safe and secure.
Both sides declared war. Of course, that was after the sneak attack by the Japanese on December the 7th. There was an article in the Pueblo Chieftain that indicated that something was going to be happening.
It was primitive. As you know, the government selected the site and they quickly put it together in 1941, 1942. So basically it was pretty well maximum on storage capability.
My uncle started working there in 1940. When they were building the place, the docks, the roads, fencing, everything. I even remember the guards used horses for security. Instead of walking the fence, there's too much, so they were riding. So they hired a lot of the people that had horses in Avondale.
The values embodied by the hardworking people of Southern Colorado have produced a long and proud tradition of service. No matter the challenge, the Pueblo community has never failed to answer the call, producing 4 Medal of Honor recipients among the many who have bravely and honorably served. That is why Pueblo is known today as our nation's home of heroes.
Pueblo was a proud community because we felt we were contributing to the winning of the war. And the men and women who worked at the depot, the men and women who worked at the air base, the men and women who worked out at the steel mill, producing the materials for ships and planes. We all felt that we were perhaps more of an important part than many other communities. We felt a pride.
The planned closure of the depot in the coming years heralds the successful completion of its last and final mission, the safe and secure storage of the chemical weapons stockpile until its elimination. Starting in 1942, the depot stored Army materiel known then as the soldiers' beans, bandages, and bullets. More than 1,000 structures were built at what was called the Pueblo Ordnance Depot to store freight trains worth of munitions and general supplies to support the World War II effort.
We were playing an important role because my mother was shipping materials all over the world from the Pueblo Ordnance Depot. And you felt proud of the job even that your mother and father had, even though they were menial in many respects. They weren't high-level positions, but by golly, they were helping to win this war.
After the war, the depot became home to 11,000 military vehicles. As its mission grew, so did its workforce.
Basically, when we started, you're talking about 700 and some odd people. Now, as the Korean conflict started, they multiplied and we had 8,000 people. So that was an influx of personnel. And I left on the day they started their overtime and came back just as they ended it, so I was deprived of all of that extra loot while I served in the Korean conflict.
There was a lot of people. When I first started, there was probably at least 8,000 people working out there when I first started.
Employees from the depot. We'd pick them up, I think it was something like 15 routes in town, picking up people, taking them to the depot.
A little bit of everything going on. There was vehicle maintenance, vehicle repair, vehicle disassembly, jeeps and trucks and tanks.
What took half a warehouse, we used a quarter of a warehouse because we started stacking quarter-ton jeeps, 3 high, with a forklift. And all we had to do was get some racks made. And we also started stacking 2.5-ton trucks.
When a bunch of tanks would come in and they needed to go back out, they would detail myself and other guys in to help came back to be rebuilt and then shipped out again. And some of them were in pretty bad shape. What the depot did was really a fantastic job on everything that they did.
During this time, the depot began storing mustard agent in the newly constructed J block. The safe storage of the mustard stockpile would endure as a central mission. And within J block, a special weapons depot was created to store atomic or nuclear cannon ammunitions.
I worked in special weapons division for a short while, for a couple years. And that was at 529 at the time. Everything was all super high-tech stuff for atomic bombs and things like that.
They sent me to special weapons. It was a real hush-hush area, and I had to be cleared for the top secret.
In the 1960s, while the depot continued the safe storage of the mustard stockpile, it also became the primary repair and maintenance facility for Sargent, Pershing, Redstone, and Nike missile systems, and for the general repair of military vehicles. These missions continued through the 1990s.
I was able to work on this radar, and it was the Skysweeper program. It was a 75 millimeter gun, anti-aircraft gun, mounted between a mechanical computer and a radar.
I first started out working on what we called working on the bench, is where you rebuilt a chassis or disassemble a chassis, and they totally rebuilt the electronics in it.
So I went and did a lot of inspection of the Maverick missile, which it was really a nice missile. And then from there, I went into building 595, which is the X-rays of the Pershing.
And we also were doing maintenance work for the German Air Force. They had the Pershing 1 missile, and there was a lot of deadlines and stuff to make sure that that equipment got into Europe and on time and so forth. I think the Pershing missile system helped bring down the Berlin Wall.
At the same time as the missions flourished, so too did the community in and around the depot.
At about that time, the electronics was just coming into being. The missile systems were just coming on board, and there was people everywhere. We even had taxi cab service. There was so many people that you call a cab and go up to Building 1 or to the dispensary or wherever you wanted to go.
They had swimming pools out there. They had a lot of sports activities.
My dad retired security out there in 1980, but growing up around Pueblo and anywhere, we spent a lot of time at Hyde Partner Park, because at that time it was a really nice park. They had everything in there, so we'd come from town and we'd go to the park, and my dad at lunchtime would come and have lunch with us and go back to work.
The depot has safely stored the chemical weapons stockpile for more than half a century. Today, those agents are being destroyed by the Program Executive Office, Assembled Chemical Weapons Alternatives at the nearby Pueblo Chemical Agent Destruction Pilot Plant, and the Explosive Destruction System. By the time this elimination phase is complete, depot workers will have moved more than 2,600 tons of mustard agent to these facilities, representing what was once 8% of the original national stockpile. At the same time, the depot continues to work closely with the Chemical Stockpile Emergency Preparedness Program, known commonly as CSEP, to make sure the chemical weapons are safely stored until they are eliminated. In the near future, the depot's land will be transferred back to the community through the local reuse authority, known as Puebloplex. This will provide a new opportunity for Pueblo's economic growth and public use.
One of our main missions is to go ahead and redevelop, bring economic development to the property, to ensure that some of the jobs that are going to be lost and have been lost are recouped over the next, few decades.
When I go to bed at night and I lay my head down, I'm facing the North Depot storage area. So hopefully, I'm hoping that everything goes well and we do get done with the elimination of the hazard.
There's a lot of pride in knowing that the last mission of this installation is doing something noble, and that's getting rid of some pretty bad stuff, you know, the chemical munitions that we have in storage, and finally being able to get rid of those, I think brings a capstone to the history of this depot and this military base.
While the closing of the depot will mark the end of a long and proud chapter, its important role in our nation's history will not soon be forgotten.